How's it going, Russ?
Joe, things are doing great. Thank you for having me on your show. It's a great time to talk to you about what's happening with private fleets today.
I love it. I love it. So, Russ, please introduce yourself and your company and where you're calling from today.
Sure. So I'm Russ Jones. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Private Fleet Net Zero. I'm here in Northern California. And at a very high level, think of us as Match.com for private fleet backhaul capacity, enabling savvy brokers to buy truckload capacity with superior service at a 25% discount to market.
So, when you say private fleets, that is not a common carrier, right? What is a private fleet?
That's a great question, because some people think it means a public or private type company. What it really means is when the owner of the cargo owns the truck and employs the driver. Think of Sherwin-Williams or US Foods or Walmart. Those are entities that own their own fleet of trucks, employ their drivers to haul their own cargo. What's amazing, Joe, is that this represents 45% of the trucks on the highway. And then get this, they're empty 80% of the time on their backhauls. We're talking about $150 billion worth of truckload capacity that's waiting to be taken advantage of.
Yeah, and so these companies, they buy those trucks because they are very, very interested in the front haul. Not that everybody isn't, but if you're delivering to a grocery store, if you're delivering to a big box store, at some point, these big brands, first, I think they like the idea of seeing their trucks with their name on the side. It gives them more control. It's not necessarily a cost savings. Sometimes it might be, but I don't even think that's the pitch that those guys are, them having their own fleet. I don't think they think of it that way. They say, we're big enough that our brand is important enough to us that we are going to do this right.
It ensures that they can make the deliveries that they've committed to their customers and to their DCs. So the Sherwin-Williams truck leaves, Pittsburgh, the factory, and goes to Chicago. They know that truck's going to arrive and deliver, Sherwin-Williams product to the DC in Chicago. And then it return, say they do that on Wednesday, it returns back from Chicago to Pittsburgh every Thursday, literally empty 80% of the time.
Yeah. So how is your company, Private Fleet Net Zero, taking advantage of, and I shouldn't say taking advantage, working with these private fleets and brokers? What's your role?
So what we do, and Joe, what we do is we run around to all the private fleets, and we've now amassed 80,000 trucks, 40,000 lanes of coverage, and we get from them their empty backhaul lanes. They are all set up to haul someone else's cargo, and they're interested in doing so. They have metrics around empty miles. They want to get the revenue. What's really interesting is in our example for Sherwin-Williams, the truck's full in Pittsburgh and goes to the DC in Chicago. On the return trip, they've already paid for the driver. They've paid for the truck. They've paid the maintenance. They've paid for the insurance and most of the fuel. So if they get any revenue on the backhaul trip, it's like 95% pure margin. This is an incredible opportunity for the private fleet, and it's a great opportunity for savvy brokers to be able to buy at a 25% discount to market. Everybody wins. And the ecology wins as well, right? Now you're filling up, and now we're making it so we don't have to have a second truck go from Chicago to Pittsburgh and have another truck, like a Sherwin-Williams truck, return empty. Now you're filling a truck so there's fewer empty trucks running around.
Yep. And we'll come back to this, but I want to ask one question of you because I already know the answer to this. Are some brokers already taking advantage of this opportunity?
They are, and they're really frustrated in 2026 with all of the theft, the chameleon carriers, the ruling from the Supreme Court, the English language proficiency issues that's happening in the for-hire fleet world. And so they're using Private Fleet Net Zero to secure superior truckload service at a substantial discount, game-changing discount for most brokers, tripling, quadrupling their margins, and they're thrilled about it.
Yeah, and by the way, Russ, I happen to know this because you told me this. The biggest brokerages are already doing this. They can hire big teams. They got a dozen guys who are just going out and getting capacity at these things, and yeah, capacity from these private fleets. And you don't, most companies don't have those kind of resources. But it's also, I know of a few of those big companies that say, why would we go get that when Russ and his team have already built it?
That's a great way of thinking of it. You can think of Private Fleet Net Zero as an outsource private fleet recruiting team for your brokerage. That's a great way of thinking of it. The largest brokers, we're talking about people that buy $5 billion or more of truckload capacity, usually have a team of people focused on exclusively recruiting private fleets, and they buy a substantial portion of their cargo or their trucking service from private fleets because it has great service advantages as well as a cost advantage, which enables them to beat other 3PLs. We're making that available to now all 3PLs, leveling the playing field.
Yeah, and before we hit the record button, we were playing around with titles, and the first title we came up with, it was The Cost of Bad Carriers: Fraud, Theft, and Liability with Russ Jones. Right now, as you mentioned, the Montgomery ruling, additional liability, freight fraud is still an issue, and cargo theft obviously still an issue. And these carriers, private fleets, they have their own trucks. They have drivers who usually have a lot more tenure. They're safer. They have better equipment because they have their name on the side, and they're not going to steal your freight. That is not the business they're in. Yeah, you're not going to infiltrate a Fortune 500 company to steal like we have in much of our industry right now.
Yeah, it's a very different. Think about Sherwin-Williams or U.S. Foods. Think about all of the maintenance, manuals, procedures, newer trucks, better paid drivers. Compare that to Four Truck Fred on some giant load board who you've met once, never heard of, never will use again, and who can barely keep tires on his truck. And so, private fleets are in a third less accidents. Their trucks are newer. The drivers, they also have proper insurance. Sherwin-Williams doesn't want to, have anything happen, so they have plenty of insurance. They're not a chameleon carrier. It's very clear who Sherwin-Williams is.
Right.
And so a lot of the bugaboo issues that are plaguing freight brokers can be resolved by them shifting to work with private fleets or dedicated fleets. If you think about Kimberly-Clark, they might say, hey, I need 100 trucks. I don't want to own the truck. I don't want to employ the driver, but I want to tell the truck where to go. So they go to a large fleet, maybe like Sherwin-Williams, Schneider, a for-hire carrier, and say, I need 100 trucks. And so those trucks are busy on their head hauls, but dedicated fleets are also empty a bunch on their backhauls. And we focus in on that, and we have dozens of private fleets and dedicated fleets on our platform that as a group represent 80,000 trucks of coverage. When we engage with a new client that's looking to buy truckload capacity, we'll probably fill 3/4 to 80% of their buying lanes that they care about with coverage from our fleets at this point.